So my name is Pat Hudgens, and I am the Associate Director here at the K-State Career Center. And we are going to be sharing hopefully some tips and some things that will help you learn or continue to interview like a pro. And so I'm excited to be here today. We are excited to be here for the Part-Time Opportunities Fair for you as well. So just so that you know how things are going, for most of you, I'm going to say that one of the things that you may want to know about us is that there we go, is that this is the building that we're located in. And I realize we've got some brand new students on here. Some of you may have started your first visit to campus in this building on the south end of the Bernie Family Welcome Center. And so one of the things that we do is we try our best to make sure that we see you in the beginning of your journey through college and also see you at the end of your journey. So be sure and see us and stop in. And I'll tell you a little bit about some of our services as we go through our slides. But we are here to help you and to help you be a success for the next several years of your journey at K-State. So let's first talk a little bit about types. And when I say types of interviews, we're going to take it on a stretch one way and then we're going to go another way. And one of those things is sometimes you can get yourself into a situation where you're on a phone interview. And a phone interview oftentimes starts off as sometimes a pre-interview where they're screening people to kind of see what their interest is and how much they're interested in that particular position, or to kind of screen down. Maybe they said, okay, we're taking applications for all the students who want to work in a certain area on campus. And then they may say, okay, now we're screening to kind of find out you put an interest of maybe IT, or maybe you put an interest in maybe having some customer service. And that can start off as perhaps a phone interview where they're asking about your interest and a little bit more information about what it is that you've applied for. There's obviously nowadays video and virtual interviewing and lots of those kinds of opportunities. And so, we just say, be ready for how it is that's going to happen. And I'm going to say this, and you may hear me say that again at the end, be fully dressed for a virtual or a video interview. A lot of times we'll say, well, they're going to only see the top of me. Well, there's a possibility that your technology may have to be adjusted. So be sure and be fully dressed. You don't want to be embarrassed by having to stand up. They may ask you to stand up and pretend like you're doing a handshake to end the interview, or give them a high five or something of that nature, as if they were in the room with you. So you want to be fully prepared for whatever that employer may ask you to do. And sometimes people do that because they know people sometimes don't have on things on the bottom that match what the top looks like, okay? Sometimes you may have an interview type that could be following a fair or an event like this. Maybe today people are gathering names and putting lists together of students that are interested in working in their areas part-time on campus or in our community. And they may follow up and do what we call a follow-up for a career fair or a special event interview type situation where they will schedule it later. It could be on Zoom, it could be in person, it could be a group of students at one time. Some of our areas hire lots of students for events and certain things, and sometimes it may be a group interview where several students are in a group together. Group interview can also mean that you could be interviewed by a group of employers. There may be 5 or 6 people on a panel, or there could be a group of employers who then have like what looks like an orientation type situation, and then they can split you down into smaller groups. Also, there could be on-site. A lot of times an employer will ask you to come to their site. Sometimes expenses of flying one person to a site is a little bit better on their budget than for a team to fly out for interviews. So on-site interviews. And then as Jake mentioned earlier, campus interviews. We also do interviews where employers do come to campus. They do come in the form of a mock interview when sometimes they are really looking for situations where they are trying to look for future employees or future students looking for internships. So they'll come on campus. Also, one of the things that I don't have listed on here when we talk about interview types in particular, we also talk about behavioral interviewing types. Behavioral interview would be a situation where an employer would ask a question that says, tell me about a time when. Explain a situation where you made a difficult decision and those kinds of things. And what they're looking for in that situation is they're looking for behaviors that you would share with them freely and openly that talk about how you would respond in a certain situation. Sometimes it could be a stressful situation, or sometimes it could be a situation that just talked about ethical situations that you had to handle. Protecting yourself or protecting the company in certain situations. So when we talk about possible types, we're talking about venues as well as the interaction there. Before you interview, some of the things that we really ask people to think about and to consider are researching the organization or the company. What does that company do? Particularly, what position are you interested in that company? And sometimes we don't know what we're interested in. We know what we're interested in, but we don't know where in that department that may fall in that company. Do your research, do your research, do your research. Find out what they do. Find out how many branches they have. Find out where they're located. Are they located in certain places across the United States? Are they global? Would they expect you to go somewhere outside of the region that you are applying in? So think about that. Do your research and find out what they do and find out where some of the growth opportunities are within that organization. Practice, practice, practice. Practice your response to potential questions that you may have or that they may potentially ask you. You say, well, I don't know what they're going to ask me. I'll tell you, we have a resume guide, and that is located on our website. And our website is ksu.edu/career center. And if you look for our resume guide, it is a book that we've got on our online that has about 70 pages, and it has sample resumes in there, and it has in the back potential interview questions that could be asked of you. And that's a good place to start. That's a good place to read through them, read them out loud, respond to them out loud, give them some thought and to think about them. That would be one of the resources that we would highly recommend that you use. Our employers that are around us frequently know that that particular resource is available. Plan, 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 plan what you're going to wear prior to being there. Please know that one of the things that we have as a resource for you is we have a career closet. Our career closet is located in our building on the north end of the Bernie Family Welcome Center. And we encourage you to come by Monday through Friday when the university is open and when we're open, when the university is open, but to come by Monday through Friday between 8 and 5. You can come in the career closet and browse the closet, and you can find things that would be suitable for you to wear at an interview. Or if you've just received your first internship or job on campus or off campus or in the community, or you're going on a job interview, come and stop by our career closet. The items that we have there are free to our students, and you don't have to return them. Most of them are new or gently used professional attire. And so we highly encourage you to stop by and utilize that resource. So one of the things as we talk about questions and things that people will ask you, we usually will try to tell you to get ready for a 30-second introduction. to yourself and about yourself. One of the very first questions that many recruiters and employers will ask is, tell me a little bit about yourself. You should be ready to rock that question, but in a time frame where you keep it short and sweet. Don't go long, don't go on and on. When they say, tell me a little bit about yourself, you really want to tell them that, well, they know your name, but tell them something about your major, what you're studying. If you've got minors, if you're interested in getting or finishing a certificate or a focus area beyond your major, make sure that they know about that. Make sure they know what your interests are. What kind of things are you interested in or have you done in high school if this is your first year in college? What kind of things were you involved in leadership? What volunteer kind of situations were you involved in? So be sure and have that kind of stuff in a little short, sweet little format. And I say practice a 30-second introduction, but make sure you can rock the question. It says, tell me a little bit about yourself. Try to keep it simple because you may spill over into time that they may be asking you other questions and you don't want to go on and give your whole life story and biography in your short little introduction like that. Other things that we want to tell you about to be successful is to arrive early, just like you did today. Thank you so much for coming in, everybody. Smile, remember to smile. Sometimes when we're nervous, we can click pins and do things like that, but smile, it kind of helps us relax on the inside and it just keeps our face from like making other kinds of frowns or that kind of thing. But smile, arrive early, turn your cell phone off and try to keep it where it's not buzzing. Just how many of us want to look at our phones when something happens? We're trying to think of all the alerts that we are on social media. And if you want to leave it behind for just a few minutes, that would be worth it. But I would say silence it at least. Unless you're in an interview that deals with social media or something of that nature, that would be an exception, I would say. They would expect you to be tuned in and tuned on to certain things. So think about that when you're making that kind of decision as well. Bring extra copies of your resume, either in hard copy form or make sure that they're available in a link or some other way that people can get to them. A lot of times people who are interviewing you may or may not have seen it or had time to look at it, or there may be extra people in the room that maybe you weren't expecting that would be a part of the interview. So do not be afraid to have an extra copy or so of your references and that to be made available easily. Ask questions at the end. 3 to 5 questions at the end of an interview is a good thing to ask, but I'll say, here's something to stay away from. Stay away from questions that are readily explained on a company's website. If that information is prominently shown on a website, I would say, that's not what you want to ask them. Ask them deeper questions. Ask them about opportunities to move forward and what kinds of opportunities that would be available in the future, or internships and how do they handle their interns? What are some of the things that are expected? Expectations, onboarding, mentorship types of things of that nature. Send a thank you note. You know why it's important to send a thank you note? You let them know that you appreciate it, one, their time, but two, it also puts your name in front of that employer for a second or third time as a little bit of a reminder of who you are and who you were. And those kinds of things stand out because everybody doesn't do that. A couple don'ts. I don't like to focus on the don'ts too much, but let's just talk about a little bit of the don'ts. I would say don't chew gum because sometimes we don't know how much of a distraction that is, that a person will be watching you chew or twirl a piece of candy in your mouth than you even realize. And a lot of times we do things when we're very nervous and we're not aware of that. Don't make negative comments about a former job or a boss or a leader or employers that you worked with. Keep those kind of things to yourself because you never know. It could be somebody that they're related to or they know very well. It could be a dear friend of theirs who may have just started a business and maybe had a struggle and they were looking or seeking mentorship help. So people are not perfect when you start off in places. So give people a lot of grace and you move on and figure out ways that you may be able to help or move forward. And then don't ask about salary. The salary that's posted is what they're usually going to go with. I would say that question should come up more so when you're working with your HR and benefits and you're at a point where you're about ready, almost, I'd say you're almost ready to sign your contract or sign paperwork that will take you to the opportunity that you're looking for. That would be the time to speak more freely about the salary or what it is the pay rate is. And then let me just give a couple more. I've got a couple more. One other slide, and this is just kind of a recap of some helpful tips. Again, we talked about researching the organization. What do they do? What do you think they do? But what do they really do? Practice your questions out loud. Even if you have to tape them for yourself on your phone and then play them back and see what you do and see how you do. Be on point from the time you arrive. When I say the time you arrive, I'm going to say the time you arrive on the premises. That means the parking lot. You never know who you're going to encounter in the parking lot. As you are walking into that business, speak to everybody, at least say hi. You get on an elevator, say hi. You don't know if that's a person that you're going to be interviewing with. So you're starting off on a good foot and you're on point because they're going to remember you and they may even know that it's you, but you may not know who you're going to encounter. So you be on point from the time you arrive. And even before that, we could tell this joke about in traffic where somebody flipped somebody off and didn't realize that was a person in their interview. So you don't want to be that person either. And in traffic, trying to get there because you're in a hurry. I'd say sometimes if you can navigate that place the day before or the evening before when traffic has died down, I would suggest doing that to navigate it, to see if you can get yourself to the spot that you need to be so that you can see exactly where it is, where prime parking may or may not be the night before, so that you can at least scale the place out and know. It's going to look very different the next day, of course, but that way you can at least know where you're going and what to look for. Remember your verbal and nonverbal communication. People are watching your mannerisms to see how you're doing and what you're doing. So just be mindful of those kinds of things. Prepare your questions in advance to ask. It is nothing wrong with carrying a portfolio or notebook in with a pen and paper to write notes down. I think sometimes people are impressed that you've jotted down a few notes. And then follow up again, as we said, with that personal thank you note. That means a lot. And it also, again, puts your name in front of that person or that group one or two other times. And then again, remember to smile. If you're on virtual or you're doing something, no pets on Zoom or whatever your virtual that you're using, platform that you're using, control your virtual background. Know who is in the room with you and preferably no one else or no other pets or anything that could, birds. We've heard birds a lot in virtual interviews. Make sure that they have been secured to another space or place, and make sure that if you do have small pets or animals that they are secure where you can't hear them barking or doing some other things while you're on that, because that can be a distraction to you as well. And when I say also control your virtual background, know the posters and information that are on the walls behind you. What do they convey and what do they display? Make sure that if you are in your room, that you're not somewhere, for example, if you've got a ceiling fan and that ceiling fan happens to be right above your head, then it looks a little bit like a beanie cap or something like that, that's spinning. So think about where bedposts are and those kinds of things. Closet doors, I would say close them if you can. Sometimes we'll tell people to put a fake curtain up behind them if it's something appropriate that you just need to cover up. And then we also have space that you can utilize in the Career Center for free. You do have to schedule the space. So if you know about an interview that you've got, we say schedule that space, give us a call, email us, let us know that you need a space. And we've got a very nice interview room. We have several interview rooms that have, some are equipped with technology if you don't have your own, or you can use your own technology in those rooms in that space. So think about that. And we just say, come ready to rock whatever you're going to do to interview like a pro. And we're here to help you all throughout your journey through your college and beyond.